On to security and our integrations. So when I opened up, I said that we handle router replacements, and we also position ourselves as a branch firewall replacement. So recently, actually, I think this was just this past August, we received the ICSA Certified Labs Secure SD-WAN certification. And this is relevant because we are the only SD-WAN organization that or platform that has achieved their secure SD-WAN certification. So there's other vendors that have their firewalls certified. There's other vendors that have various other products certified, but nobody has achieved their secure SD-WAN. Really, what it is their their firewall certification, but expanding it beyond a single appliance or a high availability set of appliances. It's to ensure that the encryption is maintained in segmentation and administration, control plane, data plane, all of those aspects of any SD-WAN solution remain secure at a holistic level across the entire fabric. Is the data encrypted? Is the control plane data encrypted? Is the certificates that build and tear down the tunnels, are they deployed in such a manner that if one key is compromised, that the rest of the fabric the integrity is retained? And the answer to all of these is yes. We've achieved this certification, and as of this morning, I checked, unless somebody published it while we've been doing this workshop, we are still the only vendor with a certified secure SD-WAN solution. Some of the other features that this version included, the code that we submitted for the certification, is also we go from a stateful firewall that we've had for many, many years into a next-gen firewall. So we're doing denial of service protection. We're looking at advanced threat defense. We have, like I mentioned, the intrusion detection and prevention engine, as well as denial of service and other features that you would expect from an on-prem next-gen firewall. Now, there's going to be more enhancements to that. We're taking a very, very serious look at our security offerings, and we don't have today on like URL categorization, but that will be coming very early calendar 2023. As well as some other features that you might expect in there, web reputation, geo filtering, which some of that we can do today. It just is going to get an enhancement as we build out that whole threat defense back end. And I will conclude this section with the fact that the next gen firewall functionality, the denial of service, the layer 4 through 7 application inspection, all of that is inherent to the platform. That does not require that extra advanced security license. The only thing the advanced security license gives you is intrusion detection and prevention. So depending on your security maturity of your organization, you might only need IDS, IPS at maybe your head ends, maybe 1 or 2 larger branches, and you're going to expand into maybe more of those branches or a more mature security posture, right? We can grow with you, and the way that IDS, IPS license is applied is per appliance, so that way again, you can grow with it instead of flipping a fabric-wide switch that would come with a much higher cost. So again, we let you consume these add-on licenses at your own pace and as it makes sense for your business. Okay. So that's pretty cool. But this is also going to cover, the section is going to cover our integrations. And the way that we approach a holistic security solution is really a best of breed positioning. Mainly for a lot of the reasons that we've discussed already today, where we let you consume the add-on licenses in a very customized manner. We let you turn features on and off at a very customized manner. We feel that you shouldn't be forced into and mandated as an all-in vendor, single vendor solution. There are plenty of cloud security providers out there that offer a wealth of tools, and they also let you pick from a menu, if you will, the features that you need. So if you only need like data loss prevention for your remote workers, right? We can integrate with that and refer that traffic to that third party, whether it's like a Netscope or a Zscaler or any one of the other ones that are out there. I mean, there's just a whole slew of cloud security providers out there, and all of them, I'll dare say that we can integrate with, albeit we have different maturity levels of integration with them. So there's one end of the spectrum where you do a quick API key exchange, and we'll handle all the orchestration, the tunnel building dynamically on the back end on both sides, even to the point to where some of the basic policy configuration can be done from our orchestrator, which keeps your administrators from pivoting to another dashboard for day-to-day tasks. All the way to the other end where you might have a custom solution. Maybe you have your own virtual firewall in Amazon and you need to build a GRE tunnel to it or an IPsec tunnel to it. You can define those endpoints, and then that tunnel essentially becomes a drag and drop item in your breakout overlay. So if you had a branch site that needed access to the internet, but you wanted to funnel them through your own cloud firewall that you're hosting, you could have that tunnel created, and then you just drag that policy over. And when any internet traffic is destined from that location, it'll go and get routed up to the cloud firewall. So from a more manual configuration all the way up to 100% orchestrated, and everything in between is really the positioning that we have. So on the Aruba side, obviously we're SD-WAN, right? We are a router replacement. We have advanced segmentation, which we barely scratch the surface of today. The overlays, right? When we'll get into security zones and security templates, and then we can get into VRFs, and now with the ClearPass, we'll be able to even get into role assignment segmentation. We have an end-to-end next-gen and zone-based firewall. That slide needs to be updated. That should be next-gen firewall now. We have our WAN opt. We have built-in intrusion detection and prevention. And now again with ClearPass, we start going down that zero trust network access or network access control methodology. So we do want to get into that ClearPass and integration. So I'll show you kind of how this works. At a high level, we have our orchestrator, which you're getting more and more intimate and familiar with. And then you may already be familiar with what ClearPass Policy Manager can do for you and your network and your LAN. Right, so when you have a network device on your local area network, and whether that's an IoT device, a corporate laptop, a specific device type with a specific user group set up, you can assign various roles or attributes to that device. What Orchestrator, and more specifically EdgeConnect, will do is it will read those attributes and let you make routing, forwarding, and security decisions based on that. So for instance, if we want to take a look at that IP security camera, which is essentially an IoT device, some networks, it's kind of hard to identify what it is. So we typically throw it in a specific VLAN, right? Security camera VLAN. And then we take all the traffic in that VLAN, and then we put a firewall rule or security policy around it. We route it, it goes on its merry way. And that's fine until something changes. Maybe a new camera preventer has got to come in, or maybe there's a new model, or maybe there's a misconfiguration on the switch and it gets put into a different VLAN. Well, it's just going to grab DHCP and it's going to go ahead and grab it and get on the network. Well, now all of that fancy security stuff that you just configured is no longer applicable because you're sourcing on a VLAN. So unless you had something else in place, right, that's not going to work. With ClearPass, it'll come up, the switch will identify, or the wireless access point will identify that device, send it over to ClearPass and say, hey, profile this guy. Are you a security camera? Are you a temperature sensor? Are you a door keypad? Are you a corporate user with a BYOD device? It'll assign a role or another attribute back, and then that role and attribute information gets passed off to the EdgeConnect appliance, and now we can take that information. And much like what Brian was showing on that first lab, where we have all those application groups and domains and interface, even your traditional VLAN and subnet segmentation information, we can now take a look at role, posture assessment, what group ClearPass assigned them, specific MAC addresses, even down to the operating system. So you could have all your iPads be funneled through a specific overlay or get applied to a specific security policy. Your temperature sensors and keypad doors, or maybe it's a retail location, get your point of sale. And, they only really should be talking to the point of sale head end. They shouldn't have access to the local access points on the network. So now we can start restricting that traffic and preserving that segmentation across the fabric. Any questions on that before we get into a demo? We will get some questions after we show the demo here. All right, so what I have is...
Oh, I just wanted to point out this flow table right here. This is one of our main troubleshooting tools. And this makes it a lot easier than Wireshark to get your hands around a flow. And ClearPass integrates with this. But I just wanted to make out that point, Shane, that this is a good tool. We saw it earlier in Lab 1 when we were looking at a Zoom application. And it's just it's a differentiator, if you will, between us and our competition.
For sure.
Thank you. That's
it.
Awesome.
Thank you. And so we'll be looking at this flow as we start generating traffic. But so this is my lab environment, and very soon the workshop that you guys are attending is going to see some semblance of this. We're going to incorporate some of these features into the workshop. But for the time being, I'm just going to do a demo and show you how this is going to work. So what I have is I have a 2-branch site. We're connected on a WAN router. In my lab, I'm running Orchestrator in the cloud. I also have ClearPass running outside of the lab. And inside of here, I've got an east and a west branch location. We're going to some Aruba CX switches, and then I've just got some Linux machines down here. What I'm doing is on the switch, which hopefully you guys can read that. I increased the font on that a little bit. But on the switch here, we're logged into this switch on the West Lab. And you can see port 113. We have identified this device, and I have an assignment in ClearPass to give that a role of life med. And in my scenario, I'm thinking of a medical facility where there's actually quite a bit of IoT type devices, from heart rate monitors to insulin pumps to pretty much you name it. And so typically we'll see that there's a category of IoT or smart devices that are life medical critical. And then we will see more of a standard, like maybe your security camera or HVAC or temperature sensor. So spell right. So what we've done is we've given one of these workstations, 112, which is the West Lab, and we've given him just an IoT role, and that's the role name that we've assigned. And on 113, we've given that a life med role. Okay. And our test here is we're going to access, and we're just going to do a simple ping here, but we're going to reach over to this east server by way of the SD-WAN fabric. So if we roll back in here and I get my workstations up, get logged in. So right now we're on the West Lab, and clear this out. I'm going to send a ping across. And 100.100 is my server address over here on the East Lab. And you can see we have connectivity to that. We have connectivity to Google. If we want to come into Aruba Network's website, we are online. Albeit my lab, it doesn't have a lot of resources tied to it, so we're not going to be setting any LAN speed records, but we can see the Aruba website pulled up just fine. Okay. Likewise, if we pull over to our additional server here, let me just pivot over to that and get logged into him. We'll set our baseline. And you can see we've got a ping to that 1020 100 100, and we are pinging there. We are on Google, and we have Aruba Networks. And that's going to load up for us just fine. Okay, so we can come back in, and to Brian's point, we can look at the flows of all that traffic that we just sent off. So here's our Aruba Networks website. We can see that our LifeMed, our LifeMed role kicked that off. And right now we're only viewing traffic from the West EdgeConnect appliance. If we wanted to view some of the other traffic, we could select both of these in the tree. And now we'd be looking at all the flow statistics for both appliances. And so we are primarily concerned with the West, so we're going to just filter that down a little bit. I'll get this refreshed in. And we can see that we have our DNS traffic. We can see there's some Google font being pulled down. So really quickly, we can come in and see what that data flow is doing and looking in there. Additionally, we can come into the stats of any particular flow, and we can see what the routing decision was made, which interface it left on. We can look at the statistics of that. We can come down and look at the security profile, so we can see that our policy allowed this, and we can say where it was sourced and destination in our security zone segmentation. In this case, I just have it set as default, but that information is in there. And then we can even come in here and we can see the MAC address and the user role that ClearPass assigned to this. This is in the user details. So there's a whole slew of information that can be found in here. And one other tip and trick, I don't know if you guys saw this when you're going through, but literally every tab has this little magic blue question mark, which pulls up the user guide for that specific section. So you don't need to go out digging for that. Maybe you want to come in and figure out, well, what piece of information am I trying to find in the flow? Well, you can pull that user guide up and look and see what each function does, how it flows through the box. And then, of course, because it's just laid right into your orchestrator, you have your information that would have been there right away. So that's on just about every page and template and widget up there. If you're stuck, just hit the question mark in, and you'll quickly get put into the user guide for that section. All right, so back to the lab. So what we've done is we have these roles assigned by the switch and ClearPass. And I pre-configured these so I don't fat finger it during a demonstration. But essentially what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at this first firewall rule that we're going to push. And we're going to take anything from LifeMed role as a source going to anything facebook.com. And then we are going to block that. So we're going to deny that action. We're going to go ahead and turn that rule back on. We're also going to take the other one, which is IoT role, and we are going to block access to our 100.100 server on the east side of the fabric. So what I'm showing here is that we're making firewalling rules locally at the EdgeConnect purely based on the role assignment of that end device. And so while we're kicking this off and letting this orchestrate, so we're going to enable these rules. We're going to go ahead and click OK, and we're going to save that change. It was just giving me a warning that you might affect traffic, so maybe you want to do this in a maintenance window. So this is going to kick off, and it's going to push the configuration to our fabric. Now, while we're looking at that, the role assignment here is really the only thing unique of these two machines. They live on the same VLAN. They're one IP address different from each other. And so I'm not doing any VLAN segmentation, not doing any specific source IP. We're purely using that role information that the switch was able to get from ClearPass. Okay. So we got one side done. That other side will wrap up here in just a second. While that's coming up, I'll get those other workstations on. Other one up. And come back and check. This should be done any second. You know, it is a live demo, so I'm sure. Oh, there we go. Now it works. I always got to make sure that the demo gods are appeased when you kick one of these off. Get our two workstations back up in our lab. So if we come over to our LifeMed and want to re-kick off that ping, you can see we still have access from the LifeMed, which is as it should, because it's the IoT one that should be blocked, which this is going to sit in timeout. Now, if we come back over to our orchestrator and we go back into those flows like Brian was telling us about, we can really quickly come in and see that, take the filters off, we have a dropped flow in here. And my zoom is messing me up a little bit. So if we zoom in on that IoT role, we can see here that that policy was in fact blocked. So we have our ICMP going to 100, 100. So we can take a look at that and see what's going on. And here's a security action, and that was denied. And it was denied based on your policy. So we could come in and take a look at this, and we have that IoT role. And of course, because we just configured this, that IoT role in the segmentation here is being denied 100 to 100. So we come back over and we look at, see that pink still hasn't gone by, but the life med has come on. So if we come back up to here and we want to check our Facebook out, and about the only thing in Facebook you can get to without a login is Marketplace. And so we'll look at our IoT role has access to the Facebook Marketplace. And if we come back into here, we go to the Facebook Marketplace, and this one is going to sit in timeout because it has been blocked. So we can come back into our flow tables and change this over to Life Med. And then we will see the flow that has been blocked. And there's our two blocked, our DNS lookup and our user access into the Facebook Marketplace web app. So folks, this has been a pretty simple demonstration on here, but the point being is the only part of this that we have really sourced from is the source user role. We could do this with a source user name. We could do this with a group. You know, when you start thinking about how much IoT is taking over our networks, and you know, we can't put clients on them. We can't put, you know, we either have to segment them into VLANs, but then if they get picked up and plugged into another network segment, you know, they're out and about. If you have that ClearPass set up to posture and profile that device on your switch or your access points, and now the fabric can take all of that work and segmentation that you guys have built on your networks and preserve that segmentation across the SD-WAN fabric. The possibilities really scale up nicely. You know, we're doing a couple of simple rules here, but if we were to do host-based endpoint IPs with DHCP reservations, you know, things like that, it can get complex as you start getting hundreds, if not thousands, of network endpoints on the device. The other thing I want to point out real quickly is, you know, like we're doing here, we can stack this. We could say IoT role going to this on a specific application. Right. So if we wanted to look at any of our first packet IQ, which are, like Brian had said, we have tens of thousands of applications already identified for you, hundreds of millions of domains. Right. So we can look at, is that streaming audio? Is that YouTube videos? Right. You can look at any of those in here. So you're looking at MP3s coming over YouTube or just YouTube in general. You want to break out, and maybe you want to only allow Office 365. Right, so you can just type that in, and there's your Office 365 comment. Maybe you only want Office 365 Exchange, right? Very useful if we get into regional, or you know, you guys are over in the Northeast, and you know, there might be some business entities across the border to the north, and they might have a different set of compliancy standards. So in that template policy that we've got here, we could have say a Canadian template and have a more specific or more applicable set of security profiles that would either overwrite or merge depending on the configuration in here. So there's a lot of flexibility, and it lets you combine and do a lot of and joins to really drill into your traffic without taking a lot of effort to identify that traffic due to that ClearPass integration.